So, how did Hollywood become, well, Hollywood? The story isn't what you think. It's not about talent or glamour. At its core, it's about solving some very specific problems.
Its power wasn't born from creativity, it was born from solving a series of brutal problems that, frankly, no one else could. This is the story of how movies escaped lawsuits, used geography as a weapon, built literal factories for telling stories, and then, pretty quietly, took over the world. Let's break down how that system was built, piece by piece. Okay, so the first thing you have to understand is that movies didn't start in Hollywood. Not even close. They started on the East Coast, think New York, New Jersey, and right from the beginning, they were born under this constant cloud of legal pressure. Yeah, early cinema was ruled by law, not by art. The first filmmakers, they weren't daydreaming about stories or actors. Their number one concern was just avoiding lawsuits. And that one simple fact shaped absolutely everything that came next. And here's the core of that conflict. One guy, Thomas Edison, held the key patents for motion picture cameras, and he used them to create a total monopoly. So you want to make a movie? You have to pay Edison. You want to experiment with a new camera? You risk getting sued by Edison. The entire industry was trapped. The industry was just suffocating. The most ambitious filmmakers, they knew they needed a way out. And their solution wasn't to fight the system, it was to leave it entirely. I mean, think about it. How do you fight a monopoly you can't possibly beat? Edison had all the money, all the lawyers, and all the power. A direct fight was impossible. So what do? You disappear. You get as far away as you possibly can. And let's be really clear about this. This was not a move for artistic freedom. It was a move for survival. So why California? Well, it was chosen for some very specific strategic reasons. It was thousands of miles away from Edison's lawyers. Federal patent law was barely enforced out there. And if things got really bad, you were just a short trip from the Mexican border. Hollywood wasn't born as an artist colony, it was born as a legal loophole.
So, after escaping the legal threat, these filmmakers discovered an even greater advantage out west, something the East Coast could never, ever compete with.
The difference was stark. See, back in the early days, before powerful studio lights, filmmaking depended entirely on sunlight. In New Jersey, bad weather could shut down a production for weeks, costing a fortune. But in Southern California, you could film almost every single day of the year. Put simply, nature gave the new Hollywood studios a massive free subsidy. They had a reliable production schedule that their rivals back east just couldn't match. In those days, sunlight mattered more than acting. And on top of the perfect weather, there was the geography. Within just a few hours' drive of Los Angeles, you could find landscapes that looked like anywhere in the world: deserts, mountains, oceans. This basically compressed the entire globe into one cheap backlot, which slashed travel costs and production delays. So they had the legal freedom and the natural advantages. The next step was to scale. And they did this by turning movie making into an industrial process. This is so important. Hollywood wasn't creative first, it was efficient first. The major studios built a movie assembly line. Companies like MGM and Paramount created a vertically integrated system. That means they owned the story rights, they owned the actors' contracts, they owned the production lots, and they even owned the theaters where the movies were shown. They controlled every single step of the process. A key part of this machine was the star system. The studios realized that people don't just remember plots, they remember faces. So they started to manufacture celebrities, turning actors into brands. This locked in audience loyalty, not to a specific film, but to the studio that owned that star's contract. So at this point, Hollywood had built this powerful, efficient machine. But the final element that ensured its global dominance was something that happened thousands of miles away, completely out of their control. Before World War I, European cinema was the global leader, but the war devastated their industries. Hollywood, untouched by the conflict, simply expanded into the empty space. Then, after World War II, it happened again. European production was in ruins, and Hollywood solidified its position as the world's default storyteller. So let's be really clear, Hollywood's global takeover wasn't because its films were necessarily better. It was an opportunistic victory, a result of geopolitical disaster wiping out its competition. It didn't win a fair fight, it just filled an empty space. And that system is still in place today, just in a modern form. The capital is still centralized, the global distribution networks are still controlled,
The marketing budgets are unmatched, and risk is managed through massive franchises. Hollywood isn't just a city anymore. It's a self-reinforcing global system.
The ultimate takeaway is this: Hollywood didn't win by being better. It won by building a better, more resilient, and more efficient machine. It won by becoming unavoidable.
And this is a perfect example of how real power is built. It's rarely about a single great idea or a charismatic speech. It's about building a system that solves problems, removes obstacles, and scales advantages. If you want to understand more of these hidden systems that shape our world, subscribe for more explainers like this one.